I'm here with Phil Arlinghaus, and Phil, first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Seymour, down in Sevier County, so I'm at the southern end of the district. I'm a pastor by training. That's what I've went to school for. Graduated from Johnson University out of Knoxville. So, uh, just seeing that we need some new stuff, new religious freedom stuff going on, and some violations of that, and I just feel needed to jump in and seeing that as being a pastor, as being a minister, just seeing that as something as important. So I've been trying to work through that, helped with some churches, planting some churches here in Tennessee and some elsewhere. And so, just been doing that and working for nonprofits right now. So.
And you kind of answered this already a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
why have you decided to run for election?
One of the big things is God. I've been lately been just praying about God. What should I be doing more than what I'm doing in my work and with churches and stuff, and just been asking and um, really seeking after Him and seeing that there needs to be more actual Christians in office, not just those who say they're Christians, but actually stand on that and actually work toward that and actually help put toward godly laws and bills and stuff to help churches and help everybody, not just churches. I believe if you're a true follower of Christ, you're going to actually put forth people more so than just your own interests or interests of the party or the interests of certain groups that's out there. So, and I just have I have a little girl. And she's 10 months old now, and I just don't want her to live in any other type of society or culture than the one that I grew up in. I want her to have at least the same amount of freedoms that I did growing up, and we've been having this rise of socialism come in with people like Senator Bernard Sanders and other people running and pushing that agenda, and I don't want to see America change that way. So just seeing some of those things come through and listening, praying to God about it, made the decision to run for this seat.
And what do you think is the biggest issue that America is facing currently?
There's several issues. I see a lot of issues in a different perspective because of God. I think one of the things that I've been seeing and listening to is some of these lockdown things with the coronavirus affecting churches, and we have the First Amendment where we're not the government's not supposed to prohibit the free exercise of worship or establishment of a national religion, and they're hindering that, and especially in more liberal states like California. I've got some pastor friends out there who uh, they can't have services, and they're making all these laws that says you can't have more than just your family in a room, and can't even do the live stream worshiping because they're like you're having more than a couple people in a room leading worship, and they're like singing can spread the coronavirus, and so they're really hindering us from having those things. And then you have other issues like the bakers who are getting sued and stuff because they won't make cakes for homosexual weddings, and I just believe we should be able to just make our own choices, and if we don't want to serve certain groups of people, that should be our choices, and it should be open. But a lot of the decisions are just I just see we need to get a shift back more toward God, and I've got friends who they do a radio program, and it's a biblical worldview show, and that's one thing that I've been on there, talked about it with them even before I ran, and we just see that we need more godly men and women to step up in all arenas of life, not just politics, but in work environments and in schools and everything, and stand for that. So I see a big need of shifting back toward God in this time. That I think is a big issue, and all of those little things that I follow along. That because of that, I'm pro-life, and I definitely need to overturn what I believe is a great mistake in Roe versus Wade. I think we need to get rid of the Johnson Amendment, where churches are free to actually express political views and not be afraid of getting any reprimand from the government. Part of that is in my tax code, which I'm a fair tax candidate, which would just get rid of all those type of taxes anyway, so you wouldn't have to really worry about the Johnson Amendment. But just seeing little things like that to help move toward a more, I would say, a more free environment for all, not just Christians, but everyone.
And now narrowing it down a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is the biggest issue facing Tennessee?
I think we're still, even though our economy was good before the coronavirus, it's actually one of the best I've seen in Tennessee in a long time. I joke around with people about a story from the Great Depression when a New York Times reporter went to the hardest hit area from the Great Depression, and it was East Tennessee, and they all were like, this is how we always lived. But I think we've really come out of that. I've seen a lot of change. I went away for a few years to help plant a church and some church work, and came back, and there was definitely a better economy here, and more people were working, more things were doing. Sevier County, where I'm from, had a $1 billion year in tourism, and they had well over 1 billion visitors and stuff. So things were growing and shaping here. But one of my biggest issues is changing the way we do our tax code, and that's the fair tax. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but that's where you keep 100% of your income, and there's a nationwide sales tax. So part of that would be, so we're familiar with that here in Tennessee because we just have the state sales tax, and part of it would be kind of getting rid of that, and they can get a percentage of the fair tax that comes out of it, and so it wouldn't really change much for us. But every state, it's interesting, every state that has a state income tax has a surplus, and every state that has a state income tax as well as the federal income tax has a negative a deficit, and they're trying to get other states to bail them out that has the surplus, especially during this coronavirus stuff where it's hurt those states. But I think we can really get our economy going back and really get it stronger and better, especially here in East Tennessee with a thing like the fair tax.
And what are your plans if you are elected, if any?
Mm-hmm. One is working with some of the great people that I think are up there already in Congress. I think we have a couple of good people here from Tennessee that's up there, learning from them as well because they've been there. I don't have a whole lot of political experience other than listening to talk radio and arguing with my campaign manager. Even though we agree on stuff, it's just arguing over like how stupid some of the decisions are and whatnot. And so the plans is, learn. That's something I'm a lifelong learner. So I say the day I start to die is the day I stop learning. So I'm always learning, trying to look for answers and solutions, and that's one of the things. But just pushing forward some of the things that I really see as important. So the pro-life stuff, I'm in that. It's a whole life pro-life view. So starting from birth all the way to death. I don't believe in abortion. Don't believe in euthanasia or assisted suicide. Also, I think is a pro-life issue that gets overlooked that I call them like middle of the life is putting an end toward human trafficking and the stuff surrounding that. So there's multi-steps things that I'm looking at. Some of the stuff like I've signed the fair tax pledge, I've signed the term limits pledge, the balanced budget amendment pledge. So there's a lot of things that I've signed, partly to be held accountable for the organizations that put those out, that say, this is what I want to push for. I want you all to help me to push toward those things. So it's just working toward those goals that I've already have set out there and put out there, like those pledges and some of the things I've put forth with that.
And is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
I just want to say that it's an honor to run and try and represent this district. I think this is one of the greatest districts in America, in Tennessee. I mean, historically, we've been a very strong Republican, very strong pro-life district, and I'm very proud to be a part of this district. Uh, I do think there's some changes that needs to happen, and one of those things is I think we need to elect someone that's not from the Tri-Cities to get a more holistic view and representation of the district. Not trying to cut down on anybody from the Tri-Cities, but it's been primarily from the Tri-Cities for a long, long time. Actually, it's been over 100 years since someone from Sevier County has been in that position. It was at the turn of the century of the 1900s. And, so it would be an honor to represent that and be that voice, that fresh voice from a little different perspective in the district. And I'm young. I'm not a career politician. I'm not there to, make this my life choice, make it whatever. I was talking, I really like what President Trump has done where he's not taking the salary and he's donating a lot of it. And there's part of me I want to do that. So I don't want to take the full salary. I'm not anyway, because I don't need it. We're doing well. I do need to take some of it because I have to, it'd be my full-time job. So, but it's just an honor and privilege to try and run for this seat and to meet new people and reconnect with old friends and stuff from around the district that I've had from school and family that's around the district. So it's just really an honor and a privilege to do this. And I pray for this district. I pray for everyone over it. I pray that God puts the right person in office, whether that's me or whoever that may be. So, I just appreciate the opportunity to have your vote and to be with you all.
Well, I want to thank Phil Arlinghaus for joining us today.